This is the whole undergirding principle behind logical processes. The necessity of a mind. All what's said in philosophical circles is it cannot account for the necessary preconditions for intelligibility. It cannot account for it in two ways. One, it cannot account for it in the very nature of logical absolutes being conceptual by nature. Rationality is a process of the mind. The logical absolutes are conceptual by nature. There must be a mind involved with them. If there's nothing that exists, there's no mind, then there is no logic, there is no logical absolutes. Existence is not the same thing as logical absolutes. A physical sphere existence is not the same thing as a logical absolute. Let me show you why. You can one thing, and that blends in with equivocation, and then you can come with an error, which is what you're doing. Now, the second point is this. Atheism cannot account for rationality because there's something you have to examine about your own philosophical position, because atheism is a philosophy. Physicalism, materialism, necessitates that all things that run in the universe run under the physical laws of the universe. Our brains, therefore, are the product of these physiochemical or chemical physio reactions. Logic is not a process of chemical reactions. There'd be no reason to trust them. Right there, atheism falls flat on its face without being able to posit anything rational.
And
it has to assume, in order to argue rationally, it has to presuppose validity.
Not really addressing what the other is saying. I agree with 90% of what you said. A statement does not exist without consciousness. Consciousness does not exist without... I agree with all of that. Logical absolutes would not exist without consciousness, because logical absolutes are statements. I'm not talking about all that. I am, given an atheistic worldview, I am assuming more than physical and chemical processes. If you did, that's fine, but that's not tag. That's more like a teleological sort of hybrid. Assuming that in an atheistic worldview you have consciousness, just like you have consciousness in a Christian worldview, there's a difference between the thinking and the consciousness that's going on and what that thinking is about. What is going on in reality that statements like A is A are referring to. Now, you talked a little bit about a category mistake. Logical absolutes, or really, when I say logical absolutes, I'm talking about that to which statements like A is A refer, treats that like a thing. Like it's something out there governing everything. The statement A is A does not refer to a thing. It refers to the behavior of all things. You on your own radio show and on Dillahunt's show, you said that God cannot be both God and not God at the same time in respect, because that would be a logical contradiction. And when asked if this meant if God adheres to logical absolutes or is subject to logical absolutes, you said something's self is simply a part of its nature. Then why can't an atheistic worldview account for the consistency of all existence by just saying it is the nature of a rock to be itself and not itself? It is the nature of a person, a tree, a stapler, a truck, a duck, to be itself and not itself, whether a mind is there to perceive it or not.
You're correct, except that statements of truth require minds. If the only thing that exists in the universe is a sphere, a carbon sphere, and there's no mind around to make any statements about it or to understand anything about it, then there is no truth. Then there is no truth. Understand? There is no truth. Okay. Truth is a statement. Thank you for saying that. Truth is a statement of the mind. Logic of translations, because it's still true to non-mind, non-conscious situation. That's how come we don't need the truth statements to begin with for the validity of the second to be true.
The reality
doesn't make sense to do that.
The reality of a circumstance is not contingent upon a truth statement. A truth statement is contingent upon the
No. Logic is a process of lessons of logical absolutes. But if you're going to cite logical absolutes in a non-mind occupying universe, where the universe is
left with is not logic.
Then there is no logic. There are no logical absolutes.
You don't have logic anymore. You don't have logical absolutes.
Go ahead.
You don't have statements. You don't have concepts. You're the only thing you're left with is the behavior of therefore logic and logical absolutes to model after it. That was such a grammatically comprehensible statement, but fear of things that exist. Even in your worldview, you strip everything away and you are still left with God's consistent nature, God's nature to be consistent with himself, his nature to be real. It is reality that consciousness and logical absolutes and all of that aside, there is a consistent nature to things that exist. We make statements like A is A. That consistent behavior, that consistent nature of things that exist. So I'm still struggling to understand how this means that some extra...
Well, we could get into the cosmological argument and demonstrate that naturalism cannot account for the existence of the universe, nor can it account for rationality. Both of these things are statements. Reality can't exist by itself without a mind, even though I ultimately, as a Christian, do not believe that's possible. I believe that God is a necessary being. But I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm going to just work from your perspective. It isn't that reality can't exist by itself without a mind. If something exists and there's no mind around, yeah, it exists. Sure. But that isn't the issue. That is not the issue. The issue is rationality. Rationality itself requires a mind. Without a mind, there is no rationality. Now, it requires a mind and it requires absolute principles. Logical absolutes. First, second, third law of logic, for example. And folks, if you don't know what those are, first law is law of identity. Something is what it is and is not what it is not. Second law of non-contradiction. You guys know what a contradiction is. Third law of excluded middle. A statement's either true or false. Now, these are statements, these are truths, and they properly reflect reality. And if there's no one around to make these statements, reality isn't altered by that. It doesn't make any difference. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the process of and that's what you're not dealing with that, and most atheists do not address this issue. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would be happy to deal with that. It depends on what you mean when you say logical absolutes. There's two things you could mean. You could mean by logical absolutes either the statement, A is A, or you could mean that to which the statement refers. Now let's deal with the first one. The statement A is A, what is the nature of its existence? Conceptual. It's a statement. Statements are conceptual. It's the nature of its existence is conceptual. It's a statement. A is A. That's dealt with. Is to which the statement A is A refers. That is a categorical error, because what A is A refers to is not something that exists which has a name. What A is A refers to is the nature of a thing. What A is A refers to is the way that and A could be, consistently and reliably behaves. So to ask what the nature is of a nature is a categorical it's a categorical error.
By the way, sorry for not producing more videos recently. Just FYI, we're undergoing a major thing here at the CARM headquarters. I won't get into all the details, but it's really sapping our time and our energy, and there's some serious stuff that's happening, and we got to make some adjustments, and it's just taking all of my time. Plus, I have to prepare for a debate with a secular humanist at UCLA in about a month and a half, and some other stuff. That's all. Just talking. Well, I'm going to get to it. I've already written a response to your vid, just haven't shot it. A equals A. You said, I'm asking you for the nature of the existence to which A is A refers. It's a categorical error. It's actually, anyway. I'm not sure. I think what you should do is either PM me a statement that you want me to refer to exactly, because it's difficult. You and I are having the same problem. It's difficult to, how to put this, to say something concisely under a minute, because your statements, my statements, are rather lengthy, and there's so many aspects of the statements, then we might be able to go point by point. That might be a way to go. To step back, it's like saying this. I would ask a question. Can an atheist give a rational account for logic from his worldview? If he can't, his worldview is insufficient, needs to be abandoned. Now, this is a subdivision, so to speak, of the tag argument, because the transcendental arguments exist in different forms, have to do with what are called transcendental